Hey everyone, Don't Even here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new ASAP Mob album slash mixtape, Cozy Tapes Volume 2, Too Cozy. ASAP Mob, New York rap collective, they are back with a new sizable full-length project following up Lords Never Worry from several years ago, as well as Cozy Tapes 1. And honestly, going into this thing, I wasn't really expecting all that much. Not just because the group's two previous efforts were at best mediocre and at worst completely unlistenable, but also because ASAP Mob, I've come to the conclusion that they are easily the most overrated rap crew in hip-hop history. Collectively, they've never had a good or solid project. They don't really, as a group, have a cohesive sound or style. Up until this point, they've shown very little in the way of collective artistic chemistry. Only a select few of the members of the group are actually entertaining to listen to. ASAP Nast, ASAP Ant, ASAP 12e, you might as well take a sleeping pill when you listen to these dudes. And good luck telling them apart most of the time too. And the Mob's relevancy thrives mostly on the individual relevancy of their biggest members, Rocky and Ferg. And now Playboi Carti, who I actually forgot was even sort of a part of the ASAP Mob when tracks like Magnolia were doing numbers. Now this thing is 17 tracks long, there are a couple skits in here, and only a few real true blue bangers and songs that are actually worth returning to. A formidable chunk of these songs are just outright skippable. In fact, that's kind of the case for the first leg of the tape, Perry A, which is sloppy, messy, slow, and pointless, doesn't have any excitement to it, nothing in the way of an impressive verse. It's like the worst opening track. The song Blowin' Minds instrumentally sounds like, I don't know, some leftover Playboi Carti song that really Playboi Carti should have been the only person on this song, and yet it's like he's the least attention-grabbing person on it. This is actually one of a few moments on here where it feels like the Mob collectively is trying to hop on Carti's sound and get themselves more attention or sound better by way of it. There's also the song Black Card where, ASAP Rocky does kind of do a bit of a cool lingual thing where he's, overusing the word black and talking about a variety of black things, but it's mostly an unfinished track that doesn't really have a strong hook on it, a defined ending. And the song Please Shut Up, the hook on this thing, please shut up, please shut up, please shut up. This is easily one of the dumbest hooks I've heard, not just this year, but probably this decade. That and I just wanna be your friend. A lot of these tracks barely qualify as songs. It's like we're getting a bland, forgettable beat, a hook that was sort of conceived in a matter of moments, just totally thrown together, and then it's a mismatch random grab bag of whatever member of ASAP Mob wants to hop on the track and throw together a really casual verse. The most casual imaginable. I'm starting to think that cozy is code word for lazy on this thing, because the cozier this tape gets, the more low effort it seems. It's to the point where Rocky's charisma can barely even make up for the lack of actually catchy and memorable lines on this thing. Some of his flows are kind of cool, but he's working with some pretty subpar beats and hooks on this thing. And without good beats and hooks, Rocky is, like a mannequin with no clothes on it. Ferg comes off pretty wild and eccentric on a few of these cuts, and that's a good thing, but there are a few moments here and there where he slips back into Kissin' Pink feature levels of cringe, like at the start of his Walk on Water feature. Somehow Cozy Tapes 2 comes together a little bit at the midpoint of the project and delivers some songs that are at least listenable, structured a little better, and even good. The very dreary and dark Get the Bag has some decent flows on it. The pacing is pretty good, and it's very engaging throughout. The song Bahamas, in my opinion, is the best track on the entire project. I love the hook and this sort of refrain and this idea of not having been to the Bahamas. It's pretty funny. And this is kind of like the wild, unpredictable energy that if you were going to do a tape and do a project with a group of guys that sounded very on the fly, this is the kind of energy you would want to capture right here on this song. And yet, so many tracks on this thing just fall flat and are just severely boring. But not only is the lyrical energy and the performance energy high on this thing, Lil Yachty and Schoolboy Q in a lot of ways kind of make the track. The instrumental is fantastic, sounds really woozy, kind of like a trap nightmare. And it's that kind of spacey, woozy, surreal quality that I think has made some of Rocky's and Ferg's and A$AP Mob's best tracks as great as they are. It's something that I think they do well. It's a sound that I think they help popularize. It's a sound that I wish they would just focus on, because every single time they sort of, hit that pocket, strike that balance on a sound just like this, it goes over so well. Because as soon as they step outside of this comfort zone, you have tracks like Frat Rules, which is a sharper, sweeter, more conventional song with some very soulful horn samples throughout. The beat does get kind of redundant, but the flows are good. However, the song just kind of sounds like a Big Sean song, not only in tone, but in the fact that Big Sean just really dominates the track. And that's another thing. Like, a lot of the guests on this thing really tend to steal away from the rest of the A$AP Mob. That may be because they're making so many concessions on a song that they're essentially just kind of allowing it to be their song just to break up the monotony of the project, or it could just simply be because the other people appearing on the project are more talented, which is exactly what happens on the track toward the tail end of this thing, where it's essentially just members of Pro Era and Flatbush Zombies all just like, in a posse cut, which is pretty great. It's like one of the most exciting tracks on the entire thing here, but it's also really good because there's like little to no A$AP Mob presence. Like, your project literally gets better the less that you're on it. I mean, also kind of the same thing with the song RAF or RAF. I love the sad, pretty beat on here. It's very entrancing, and the vocal contributions from Quavo and Frank Ocean are, again, kind of showstoppers. Even Lil Uzi Vert on here is not all that bad, considering, his company with the A$AP Mob on this thing. Moments like this blow out of the water tracks that are merely just listenable, like First Year Being Rich. And I don't know, man, I feel like the A$AP Mob just continues to have very little to offer, mostly because they just refuse to offer it. If we're to make some kind of school metaphor over here, given the skits on this tape, I mean, A$AP Mob, they merely seem only concerned with just passing their classes by the skin of their teeth, just taking that D+ and just getting through whatever. Because the lyrics on this thing are forgettable. The rapping is subpar to average. The production mostly very bland. The hooks, most of the time, what hooks? And the Mob still offers very little in the way of style and vision. I don't know if that's just because they don't have it and will never have it, or if they just haven't put in the work and the effort to actually come together with one. Once again, the A$AP Mob have dropped a project that is very inconsistent and very unremarkable, and I'm feeling a decent strong 4 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Have you loved it? Have you hated it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave an angry comment in the comments if you're angry, okay? That's it, guys. Over here next to my head is another A$AP Mob review. Click on that, watch that, or click on the link to subscribe to the channel. You're the best. I'll catch you in the next one. Forever.